It was a cold February afternoon in 2017 when the quiet town of Delphi, Indiana, was shattered forever. Two best friends, Liberty German, just 14 years old, and Abigail Williams, 13, walked along the abandoned trails near the old Monon High Bridge. What should have been an innocent hike turned into a nightmare that would haunt the nation for years. Hours later, when they failed to return home, the entire town mobilized in a desperate search. What they found the next day would send chills down the spine of even the most seasoned investigators. Both girls were discovered brutally murdered, their throats cut, their young lives stolen in the most horrific way. But what makes the Delphi murders even more chilling isn't just the brutality of the crime. It's the haunting clue the killer never realized he left behind. One of the victims, Libby, had the presence of mind to pull out her phone and hit record. Those few seconds of grainy video, a man's footsteps approaching, and the muffled, commanding words, "Down the hill," became the most infamous and haunting evidence in recent American true crime history. For years, this tiny community lived in the shadow of fear and unanswered questions. Who was the man on the bridge? Why did he target the girls? And why did it take so long for justice to arrive? But before we continue unraveling this story of horror, resilience, and long-awaited justice, don't forget to subscribe to Quiet Town Crimes and turn on the notification bell. We bring you the darkest cases from America's quietest places, where evil hides in plain sight. The story of Libby and Abby is more than just a crime. It's a haunting reminder of innocence lost, of a town forever scarred, and of the courage it takes to never give up on finding the truth. Nestled in Carroll County, Indiana, the town of Delphi is the kind of place most people would overlook on a map. With barely 3,000 residents, it's the epitome of small-town America. Quiet streets lined with modest homes, kids riding their bikes after school, neighbors who know each other by name, and church bells echoing on Sunday mornings. It was a community where crime was almost non-existent, where people left their doors unlocked and trusted the safety of their surroundings. For generations, Delphi thrived on its sense of togetherness. Everyone gathered for high school basketball games, for county fairs, and for the annual Deer Creek Festival. It was a town where the biggest news might be a new diner opening on Main Street. In Delphi, tragedy wasn't supposed to happen, and certainly not the kind that would capture the attention of the entire country. Libby German was 14 years old. Bright, curious, and outspoken, she had a passion for photography and dreams of traveling beyond her small town someday. Friends described her as fearless, the kind of girl who stood up for others and who always had a quick smile, even when life wasn't easy. Her best friend, Abigail Williams, was 13, quiet and thoughtful, a talented artist who loved playing volleyball and had a deep appreciation for nature. Together, the girls balanced each other perfectly. Libby's energy matched Abby's calm, their friendship forming a bond that seemed unbreakable. On February 13, 2017, a Monday with unseasonably warm weather for Indiana in winter, schools were closed for a makeup holiday. With free time on their hands, Libby and Abby decided to do something simple and innocent: spend the afternoon walking the historic Monon High Bridge trail. The bridge itself, a rusting relic from an old railroad line, towered nearly 63 feet above Deer Creek. Its weathered wooden planks, some missing entirely, made it both dangerous and alluring, especially for teens looking for adventure. At 2:07 p.m., Libby posted a photo on Snapchat. It showed Abby carefully balancing on the bridge, her jeans and hoodie against the backdrop of the endless wooden beams stretching into the distance. It was a picture-perfect moment of teenage fun, a snapshot that, tragically, would later become chilling evidence of the girls' final hours. When 5 p.m. came and the girls hadn't returned home, worry set in quickly. Calls went unanswered and text messages remained unread. By nightfall, the families were frantic. This wasn't like Libby or Abby. They weren't the kind of girls who stayed out late without telling someone. Word spread through the town faster than wildfire. Volunteers, neighbors, and law enforcement flooded the trails, flashlights cutting through the dark woods as parents prayed for their daughter's safe return. That night, hope still lingered. Maybe they had gotten lost. Maybe their phones had died. Maybe, just maybe, they would be found cold and tired but alive. But by the next day, Valentine's Day 2017, hope would shatter. Just off the trail near Deer Creek, searchers discovered the bodies of Libby and Abby. The innocence of Delphi was gone forever. The discovery of the bodies of Libby and Abby on February 14, 2017, turned Delphi into a crime scene overnight. What had once been a quiet trail became a place of horror, swarming with police, FBI agents, and crime scene investigators in hazmat suits. Reporters rushed in from across the state, their cameras pointed at a small Midwestern town now thrust into the national spotlight. At first, the details were scarce. Investigators confirmed the deaths were homicides, but they held back specifics. Still, whispers spread quickly. The way the girls were found, the brutality of the attack. These weren't just murders. They were something darker, more calculated. For the people of Delphi, fear settled over the community like a heavy fog. Parents clutched their children tighter, and the once popular Monon High Bridge trail became a symbol of terror. But then came the revelation that would both haunt and galvanize the investigation. On her phone, Libby had managed to record a grainy video of a man walking toward them on the bridge. The clip showed him dressed in jeans, a navy jacket, and a cap pulled low over his head. His hands were in his pockets, his gait steady, almost casual. Investigators released only a short portion of the video, but it was enough to burn into the minds of millions. The blurred image of a man approaching two unsuspecting girls on a wooden bridge in the middle of nowhere. Even more chilling was the audio. Investigators revealed just 3 words, spoken in a deep, commanding voice. Down the hill. That was all. No more, no less. Just enough to terrify and to remind the world of the incredible courage Libby had shown in pulling out her phono. In her final moments, she had left behind the most important piece of evidence. The public release of this recording electrified the case. Suddenly, every man in Delphi became a suspect. Tips flooded in, tens of thousands over the following months. Posters with the blurry image of the suspect plastered walls, gas stations, and mailboxes. Police set up hotlines. The FBI created a special task force, and the case became one of the most heavily covered small-town crimes in recent American history. But despite the avalanche of leads, nothing concrete emerged. Witnesses contradicted each other. Rumors spread like wildfire. Was the killer a local? A drifter passing through? Someone known to the girls? Every unanswered question twisted the knife deeper into the town's collective wound. For the families, grief mixed with rage. How could someone commit such a heinous crime in broad daylight, leave behind such clear evidence, and still walk free? For Delphi, the Monon High Bridge no longer symbolized teenage adventure. It became a haunting monument to 2 lives taken and justice denied. As weeks turned into months, and months into years, the case seemed frozen. Every so often, investigators released updated sketches of the suspect, fueling more speculation. But the mystery remained intact, and the shadow over Delphi only grew darker. For years, the Delphi murders became one of the most infamous unsolved cases in America. The grainy video of the man on the bridge, the haunting words down the hill, and the sketches released by police kept the story alive in the media, but also deepened the frustration. In 2019, investigators unveiled a second sketch, drastically different from the first. The suspect now looked younger, with sharper features, and that single change sent shockwaves through the community. People who once thought they recognized the man from the first drawing now doubted themselves. Some began to whisper that the investigation was lost, that the trail had gone cold forever. Meanwhile, tips continued to pour in, over 70,000 leads in total. Each one raised a flicker of hope, only to collapse under scrutiny. Detectives followed countless dead ends, local sex offenders, drifters passing through Indiana, even far-fetched internet theories linking the murders to occult groups. Every avenue seemed to lead nowhere. For the families of Libby and Abby, it was unbearable. Birthdays came and went. Holidays passed with empty chairs at the table. Their daughter's laughter had been replaced by a constant gnawing silence. The town of Delphi changed too. What was once a place of safety now carried an invisible weight. Parents no longer let their kids roam free. Strangers eyed each other with suspicion. In a town of just 3,000, the possibility that the killer still walked among them was paralyzing. Rumors spread faster than facts, and paranoia seeped into daily life. But the case wasn't dead. Behind the scenes, investigators never stopped working. And then years later, in 2022, a small detail long overlooked resurfaced. A forgotten tip. It pointed to a local man named Richard Allen, a 50-year-old Delphi resident who had quietly lived less than 2 miles from the crime scene. He was a pharmacy technician, an ordinary face in the community, someone who blended seamlessly into daily life. Allen had been interviewed early in the investigation. He had admitted being on the Monon High Bridge trail the very day of the murders. But at the time, it didn't raise alarms. The case had been flooded with tips, and his statement got lost in the sea of leads. It wasn't until investigators revisited old files that his presence suddenly snapped into focus. Coupled with forensic evidence linking an unspent bullet found at the crime scene to a gun registered in Allen's name, the picture became impossible to ignore. The man on the bridge might not have been a shadowy drifter after all. He was one of their own. When Richard Allen was finally arrested in October 2022, Delphi reeled. For years, the killer had been hiding in plain sight, shopping at the same stores, working a normal job, even exchanging pleasantries with people who never suspected a thing. The arrest marked a turning point, not just in the case, but in the community's long, painful search for justice. Yet even then, the story was far from over. Court delays, sealed documents, and explosive accusations kept the case tangled in mystery. But for the first time in nearly 6 years, there was light at the end of the tunnel. The shadow over Delphi was beginning to ell. When Richard Allen was finally brought before the court, Delphi held its breath. After years of rumors, false leads, and endless waiting, the man accused of murdering Libby and Abby stood in handcuffs, his face no longer just a blurry image on a teenager's cell phone, but flesh and blood. The evidence against him was chilling. Investigators revealed that an unspent .40 caliber cartridge found near the girls' bodies had been matched to a firearm owned by Allen. His admission of being on the bridge that day now became a damning piece of the puzzle. Combined with eyewitness testimony, the phone recording, and circumstantial details, the case began to take shape in the courtroom. Yet the trial was anything but simple. Allen's defense team fought fiercely, claiming evidence was mishandled, that the investigation had been tainted by years of pressure and speculation. Court documents were sealed and then leaked, sparking outrage and confusion. At one point, sensational claims of ritualistic elements even surfaced, muddying the waters of an already tragic story. For the families, it was agony all over again. Every headline, every twist, a painful reminder of what they had lost. But through it all, one truth remained unshakable. Libby and Abby had shown extraordinary bravery in their final moments. Libby's decision to record her killer was the key that eventually led investigators back to Allen. Even in death, the girls had refused to be silenced. In 2024, after nearly 7 years of uncertainty, the case finally reached resolution. Richard Allen was formally charged, and the community that had lived under a shadow for so long began to breathe again. Justice had come late, but it had come. For Delphi, the wounds will never fully heal. The Monon High Bridge, once a place of teenage adventure, now stands as a memorial forever tied to the memory of 2 innocent girls whose lives were stolen too soon. But their story is also one of resilience, of families who refused to give up, of a town that stood together in its darkest hour, and of the enduring belief that evil cannot remain hidden forever. As the gavel fell, and the verdict was read, the people of Delphi were reminded of a painful truth. In small towns where everyone knows everyone, sometimes the greatest monsters are the ones living right next door. And so, the case of Libby and Abby will forever echo in the annals of American true crime, not just as a tale of horror, but as a reminder of courage, persistence, and the long road to justice.